James Will, Lieutenant. I reported aboard on a Saturday night. I went into the wardroom and I was excited because I had, from the time my father was the harbor master on the Atlantic entrance to the Panama Canal for 40 years. And my grandfather was one of the first pilots on the canal. But I'd always been around the ocean, and I had always said I was going into the Navy. And I had always said I was going to be on a destroyer. So, you know, that was something that was exciting to me, just the fact that I knew I was going to be on a destroyer. And the mighty, you know, we called it the Mighty Mac. We had a great crew. I'm still friends with 4 or 5 of the officers who were in the crew. McKean was, I've forgotten a lot of that information. I mean, it was a World War II destroyer. It had been, we'd gone through, it had been completely redone. So, you know, we had twin 50s forward, I mean, twin 5-inch forward, a 5-inch aft. We had an ASROC capability, so that could, and then we also carried the unmanned helicopter on the stern. And so most of the job that we did, you know, on the WestPa cruises I was on was plane guarding. You know, so we were, you know, we'd be with a group of aircraft carriers and other destroyers and plane guard when they were taken off in case a plane went in the water. Then when we were off the coast of Vietnam, it was gunfire support, and that was really pretty much what we were doing. We rescued 2 pilots. I'll never forget. We rescued him. He was brought aboard. He was rescued by one of the helicopters. He had brought us aboard, and he had not been injured, even though he ejected from an airplane and landed in the water. And that night, we were refueling, and to go refuel at night, you'd go down, and the refueling ship would be going, say, north, and you'd be going south. And as you go by them, you'd take a 180-degree turn. Well, when you take us at that speed, the destroyer keels over. He fell out of his bunk and broke his shoulder. He said, I got through all of this and fell on the deck and broke my shoulder. You know, as I remember it, we probably, and I was not, when we were in gunfire support, I was always, because I was a damage control officer, I was not on combat information or on the bridge. So, but I would think from everything I could see, we might have been in as close as 3 to 4 miles. Yeah, probably close about that. I mean, and then when we went up north, we got close enough where we had to worry about SAM missiles. You know, when we got around Point Yankee, if we got in close to the beach. You know, sometimes if they would tell us that a plane was damaged and was on its way out, we might head for the beach. But then you had to be very careful about SAM missiles, that they could actually reach you. We never had one shot at us that I know of. So, yeah, back in those days, I mean, probably the biggest, I mean, your biggest problem really most of the time was fire on board. We had a fire on board. I mean, and I was on board the ship when we had the ship in port. It was in port, caught fire and was heavily damaged, and we thought that it was a very good chance that the ammunition was going to go. That's how close it went. The only other thing is whenever, of course, like when we fired our guns, this was an old ship, and there were lots of times when the ship they would fire the guns where your sprinkler systems would break or pipes would break. So you had to take care of the repairs. You know, we never, you know, the other thing would be is if you had a collision or something like that. We really didn't have to worry about that much. And of course, in-flight refueling turned out to be the biggest job I had, because we did that both times. And we did that for, you know, there were 2 times we were at sea, 2 times for 60 days. So we were refueling every night. I mean, we would refuel from an oiler every other night, but then we might get 14, 15 helicopters a day that would come in and refuel. And it was dangerous because, you know, you'd be out on the stern, and that stern's going up and down, and that helicopter's going up and down. I mean, I actually got hit one time where the wheel came down and hit me on the head, and of course, luckily I had a hard hat on, but I knew it was coming down. I just couldn't get out of the way fast enough. But that was the biggest, that probably was the biggest. And of course, damage control officer normally on a destroyer is also what they call the repair officer. So you're responsible for any the non-machine engine, I mean the boilers or the engine room, but everything else you're responsible for. Yeah, I mean there were a lot of repairs because actually before I headed for Swift Boats, we actually went into the Vallejo Naval Shipyard, and we were there for, I think, 4 months. So there was quite a bit of work that had to be done. It was kind of ironic because on the way up from Australia, because the other thing, we on our one cruise coming back, they sent the Turner Joy, which was the infamous Turner Joy. That was one of the ones that was with the Maddox and that was actually shot at by the Vietnamese. We went with the Turner Joy and the McKean, and we were invited to, the Navy was invited to Australia and New Zealand for the 25th anniversary of the Battle of the Coral Seas, which really saved Australia. So we went down and we visited Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, Christchurch, and then Auckland. And you know, every place we went, they would have a parade, and we would be in the parades. But whenever we went into these places, we always, the supply officer got coffee and fresh beef and fresh pork. And we go, what are you doing buying those? Well, we found out when we got to Vallejo, I think we had, I forget the budget at the time, probably $1 million in budget that we had to repairs. He got another $1 million of work just selling coffee and beef to the guys. And all the nuclear subs were being, and of course the nuclear subs had an unlimited budget. That's where the money was coming from. But we got a lot more work done. Speaking out at school, that was the way it was back in those days. So I had developed some very, very close friends. But I knew that we were going to be, we probably were going to be in port for another 6 months. And at that point, you know, 6 months, I would have been ready to get out of the Navy. And I don't know, as I said, I had always said that from the time I was a young kid that I wanted to be in charge of my own boat. And I knew I could never be a captain of a ship, but I could be an O&C of a swift boat. And so, you know, I mean, I had to extend. Well, in total, I guess I was in the Navy for, what, 4 years and 11 months. So I had to extend almost an additional 2 years to go to Vietnam. So when we finally got back to Long Beach, I applied for Swift Boats.